So, what have I been up to since we last met? Well, it's been Easter weekend, so not a lot of time for street photography, but lots of gardening, a little bit of tennis, and I'm looking out of my loft window now and I can see blue sky. Remember that? Blimey. So good to see, isn't it? Having had so much wind and rain since Christmas. And it's actually quite warm here. And this is only, 10 o'clock in the morning. Blue sky. I don't know about you, but when I see weather like this, I just want to get out there with my camera, which I plan to do more of over the summer months. So what else? In the next few days, I'll be running a workshop in the fine city of Liverpool. Now, as you probably know, Liverpool holds the annual Aintree Racing Festival, the Grand National, of course, itself being one of the biggest events in the UK horse racing calendar. But we're not going to be shooting the racing. In fact, we won't even be at the racecourse. We'll be shooting in the city centre, all around the hotspots of activity, the bars, the pubs, the places where people gather. You see, in Liverpool, on race day, the pubs start to fill up from around 8 a.m. People dress up in their finery, not to go to the races, but to go to the pub and just have a grand day out in the city centre. And I mention this because there's a wider point here that's relevant to us all, I think. Big events like this offer great opportunities for street photography, not necessarily at the event itself, but at the fringes, in the margins. And the big race days are just great for this, any of them. Cheltenham, Ascot, Aintree, York, Doncaster, even the smaller courses, and on the smaller race days, you're guaranteed to get lots of people who are dressed up, people drinking, people behaving badly, people showing off, extravagant people, outrageous people. It's just great. And then you get the other side of it with the trainers, the owners, the sponsors and so on. You put them all together on the streets of a city centre and you have this really interesting mix. So we can all do this. We can all get to a racecourse fairly easily, or in fact, any big event. So that's what I'm doing this Saturday. I've also been quite absorbed with one of my publishers over the previous week or so. And this is Rocky Nook, the very good US publisher of photo books. They've published two of mine. Rocky Nook has set up an online community for creatives called The Nook, which is divided up into subsections for photographers, painters, artists of all kinds. And I've been collaborating with them to set up this thing called the Street Photography Club, which is a really good hangout for street photographers. And although it's still in its early days, there's a discussion forum, a means to have your images critiqued, and a monthly get-together on Zoom, hosted by me, where we'll have a Q&A, we'll talk about your images, and I'll lead a discussion on something relevant to street photography, and I'll present a session on a specific technique. The sessions are recorded and put into a video library. In fact, you can see my recent session on layers if you're interested. Do take a look. There's a free trial. There is a small monthly subscription, but there's a free trial, and I'll pop a link into the show notes for you. So what else? Oh, yes, big sigh of relief. I've just put my most recent book to bed, and it's been signed off by the publisher, this time Ammonite Press. This is another in the 52 Assignments series, and it's 52 Assignments Street Photography at Night. So watch out for that one. I'm hoping it'll be published in the autumn, just in time for the night shooting season. So if you're a night shooter, or want to be, you need this book. I have a guest on today's show, and this is a longer interview which will form part of a series featuring people who I thought you might find interesting. Some of you will have heard of Klick Magazine, which I've mentioned on the show before, which has been around for 2 years now and which goes from strength to strength. Today I'm talking to the magazine's founder and editor, Derek Darke, who's going to talk to you about the background to the magazine, but more interestingly, how you can get involved. So I'm here with a lovely chap called Derek Darke, who is the founder, editor, organiser, all things at Klick Magazine, which is a relatively new magazine. Well, I say relatively new. I think it's been going for about 2 years. But Klick Magazine is it's very interesting because it's a magazine for street photographers by street photographers. And I think I've just had issue 8 land on my doorstep. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we can get Derek on the show to talk about Klick and what it's all about? So, Derek, welcome. Welcome to the Street Photography Podcast.
Thanks, Brian. Lovely to be here. Thanks for the invite.
You're very welcome. So let's start with you. Tell us a bit about Derek as the street photographer.
Okay. Very erratic, to be honest with you.
Okay, aren't we all? Yeah.
I'm very bad at practicing what I preach, to be honest with you. I'm a great believer in projects, which I don't tend to do. And I don't really have a style that I can call my own either. So basically, I go out on the streets and I shoot what I see. I'm very maverick about it. I'm probably lean towards the aesthetic side of street photography, if anything, but anything's game, to be honest with you. Yeah. I just enjoy walking the streets and taking photographs of what's there.
Well, I think that's such a big part of it, isn't it? Actually enjoying walking the streets and taking photographs, because I come across a lot of people and quite frankly, they don't seem to be enjoying it that much. So if you can enjoy it, I think what more is there to it than enjoying it?
Absolutely, it's crucial. And I really don't mind going home without a pocket full of keepers either. I like to, but I'm quite selective actually in what I take and what I keep. I think what it is, I see so many images, as you can imagine, and it's made me feel very choosy about my own photographs, really. I don't want to be taking something that has been taken 1,000 times before, if you like.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the problems, isn't it? When you look at Instagram and, somebody puts a picture on Instagram and then everybody rushes out to take the same picture. It's all kind of been done. So what do you, I'm not a gear person particularly, but what sort of camera do you shoot with? I'm sure people are interested to know this.
I was trying to think back to what my very first camera was, really, because I would have got that in my sort of mid-teens, I would say. And I think it was an old Ilford camera. It was probably a 35mm fixed lens.
Yeah.
And that's really what started me off. But I've been in and out of photography all my life, really, and it keeps coming back to me. My 40th birthday, I was bought my first SLR. It was a Canon of some sort, one of the old Canons. Film camera.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was really when I got the bug. I just thought, and I had a zoom lens, can't remember what it was, but it was a zoom lens. And I just fell in love with the whole concept of photography, really.
Yeah.
And,
as many of us did in those days, actually, with an SLR camera in around about the 1970s. That was my kind of formative period for street photography. Just great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sort of recreate it now. I love walking around with an old silver-looking DSLR around my neck. Feels great.
But it's not a DSLR. You asked me what I'm shooting with now. I mean, my main camera's Leica Q3. And I've also got a GR3. But I've just, and this is pretty much from your influence, to be honest with you, I've just bought myself a Olympus Trip.
Have you?
The David Bailey Uzi, you remember that?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Who do you think you are, David Bailey?
So, and he was my first real influence. So I bought myself that. I bought myself a roll of film, paid nearly as much for the film as I did for the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't wait. I'm just waiting for the light to change. I'm going to get down the coast and shoot off a roll of film, which I haven't done for decades, to be honest with you. So I'm really looking forward to that.
What fun. What fun. And I think half the pleasure is the anticipation, isn't it? The wait between taking the picture and actually seeing it a week later.
Yeah.
So exciting. So exciting.
Although I'm saying that, one of the reasons I gave it up the first time round was all I could do in those days was just send it off to Boots. And every time I got them back, I'm so disappointed. But things are different now.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So let's move on and talk about Klick Magazine, which is why we're here. What exactly is Klick Magazine? Before you answer, I bet I'll point out that Klick is spelt with a K. Klick, and I will, of course, put a link in the show notes. So, in your words, what is Klick Magazine?
I like to think of it as a community magazine for street and documentary photographers, and it's open for literally anybody to send in their submissions and put it together so that two reasons really. They can see their images in print along with what they have to say about the images. And also I like to think that it passes something on to the readership as well. So it's a double whammy really for the photographer and for the reader. But it's all about community.
Great. So it's not so much big names who will appear in Klick Magazine. It's people like you and me, the people we meet on the streets. It's the ordinary, as you said, the unsung heroes, the people who are out there doing it day in, day out that we probably wouldn't know their name.
Absolutely that. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing nicer than seeing your images in print, I don't think.
Yeah.
And a lot of photographers don't see it because they're putting it onto Instagram and Facebook and whatever, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But seeing it in print is special.
It is special, yeah. But it's not only pictures, is it? The Klick there are a lot of really interesting articles from what I can see, and the words are as important as the pictures.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't put submissions in unless there's some sort of script that comes with it. It doesn't have to be long. Sometimes it's a paragraph and sometimes it's, 3 foolscap pages, but it needs to have some sort of connection with the images there and the reason they're taken. Sometimes how they're taken, but it's not that necessary really. But it has to have some sort of narrative to go with the images, whether it's a single image, whether it's a project, whether it's book reviews as well, we like, exhibition reviews, but it's very readable. Yeah. Very readable.
It's interesting. One particular article that stood out for me, maybe a couple of issues ago, was an interview with Doogie Wallace, who of course is a big name. Yeah. And to have him interviewed, I mean, I think that was great. And this is what people want to see, and especially to be able to look at some of his images as well. It's just great. So where did the idea come from? How was Klick born?
I created my first couple of zines some time ago, and it was just that buzz of seeing my images in print. I just thought it was wonderful, opening that envelope when it dropped through the door. And so many of us, I think, have got hard disks that are full of images, and they deserve much better, I think. They don't get seen. And what I wanted was to create a vehicle for everyone and anyone to see their work in print, and as I said before, to share it with others. So important to share it with others as well. Yeah. And then when the script comes with it, and I get emails from people all the time saying how inspirational these photographers' articles are to them, and how it gives them extra ideas, new inspiration. Yeah. And that really is Klick in a nutshell, I think.
It's great because I know that I had somebody on a workshop, I think last month actually, and I looked at her work and I thought it was fantastic. And I said to her, look, you really ought to, she said, I'd love to see my work, have a bit more oxygen. And I said, well, you ought to contact Klick, because looking at your work, it's good. I think they'd love to hear from you. And she did, and you contacted her, and I think something is going to happen. And she was just so chuffed.
That's great to hear. Yeah, she did contact me. She'd missed the deadline, unfortunately, for Klick 8. So otherwise, she could have sent something in and certainly would have considered it. But yeah, we're in contact, and I'm sure there'll be something through for Klick 9.
Yeah, great. Well, I hope so. I look forward to that. So how did you get into the rarefied world of publishing? Did you have any background in publishing?
No, none at all. I come from a sales and marketing background. The marketing side of it, I got involved with getting catalogues made up, and I understood about fonts and that sort of thing, but never really publishing. And it was just this idea I had about Klick that got me into it. And I didn't really know an awful lot, but it took me about a year of research and learning how to use the software, the publishing software, learning about print and paper. So it's quite a strong learning curve. but I love a challenge.
It's one hell of a journey, isn't it? To go
Yeah.
from a base of nothing, not knowing anything, to actually, 2 years down the line, and it's still going. I think there are so many independent publications that are lucky to make it to 6 months, never mind 2 years. So I think you've done really well.
Thank you.
And I know a lot of people would say that starting up a new print magazine is really brave when everybody around you is saying that print magazine publishing is dead and it's gone. Everything's got to be online now. How would you respond to that?
I think it's a different animal. I'm never going to be, Klick's never going to be, in the same realms as amateur photographer or whatever. I don't particularly want it to be. But Klick is a community magazine. And I think when you've got something in place that is so niche like that, I think there's definitely a room for it in the marketplace. And giving talented individuals the opportunity to see and share their work in print can only be good. As I said before, images always look better in print. So it's the fact that it is very much a niche magazine.
Yeah.
And pretty much only available through the Klick website. So that community is building.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
That's good. I mean, if I'm buying a magazine, quite honestly, the last thing I want to do is read it on an iPad. And I know that's always a backup because some things you can only get digitally. But the joy of turning papers and the smell of the print and the ink and touching it and looking at a picture, as you say, in print, it's just a completely different experience. And I'm so glad you've gone this way. But is there a digital version available?
Yes, there is. Yeah, that's available off the website as well. And, a fair few of those get read. Yeah.
Good. So looking at who and what appears in Klick, what's your philosophy behind that?
The main one is that it is open to literally anybody.
Yeah.
To send in submissions. That's the main philosophy behind it. All I ask really is that there's something appealing and interesting about it. I don't want to see holiday snaps necessarily, but if they're holiday snaps that have got a good story behind them, that's fine. And I try very hard to make each edition as diverse as possible so that it hits lots of different aspects of street and documentary photography. And also it's very, very democratic as well. All are welcome.
Yeah, that's great. So what you mentioned the word submissions. What are you looking for in a submission? You'll get I'm sure you get loads of emails. What makes your face light up when you're looking at submissions coming in?
It has to be interesting. That's the main criteria. And I think I do look at so many images that it's almost an automatic reaction now when you see it. Or in fact, I don't get that many single images. It's mainly projects, to be honest. And hopefully I might get sent 10, and out of that I can choose maybe 5 or 6. But it's the interest factor and it's the story that comes with it.
Yeah, okay.
Really. Single images, I enjoy seeing single images, and they do play a big part. With single images, they've got to be images where you've got to be able to look twice and 3 times at, because there's things in there that don't pop out immediately. You want to revisit it.
Yeah.
Particularly once you've read the script that comes with it.
I think single images need to be remarkable in a way to get through to connect with people.
It's really interesting, actually, Brian. I think that I'll sometimes look at a single image and it comes with a group of images, and in itself, it's really nothing special. And then you start looking at the other images within the project, and it fits into it, and that one image suddenly becomes something very different when it's part of a group.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And I think that happened to me last week. I've just got back from a week in Venice, and I came back with about, 250 images on the card, I think. and I culled it down to 61 that I thought were acceptable.
Yeah.
And I think of those 61, there are maybe 3 that will work as a standalone image. The rest, I think, have a role to play, and they're okay images, but they will only work. They'll only make sense if they're part of a project. And this is the power of projects. On their own, they're an also-ran. They're nothing special. And so you make a really interesting point there. So what do you reject? What turns you off when the emails come in?
I do get some submissions that are clearly not street or documentary.
Artistic nudes.
No, that's another magazine. Yeah, I mean, I won't mention any specifics, but so some do come in, and I think, well, why have you sent that in? So, I call it street photography magazine. Documentary is fine. I get some really good things there. Occasionally, I'll get an image that really isn't suitable. It's a bit too graphic, a bit too documentary, if you like. Probably nothing wrong with the pictures, probably suit another publication, but they're not really for Klick. It's not what Klick's about. The other thing is the other ones that get rejected. I'm quite permissive of image. I think street photography is technically very forgiving. You can have grain, you can have movement, but some come in and they've just got far too many. So that they've got to be good printable prints, really, images.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's very little that gets rejected, without much thought, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the best advice you would give to a would-be contributor?
I think consider why you're sending the image in. I think that's probably the most important thing to yourself. Okay, well, I've got this image. I'll send it in. Why am I doing it? And this is really why writing some sort of script with it becomes important, because it highlights to the photographer what that image is actually about. So think about why you're sending it in, because I've got to know why as well, rather than just looking at an image as itself. I would, here we go, here's a sales plug. I would recommend people look at Klick. I do sometimes get things sent in to me, and it's instantly clear to me that they've never seen a copy of Klick, because it just doesn't fit what's wanted, really. They get rejected. So, if you can, it's not always possible, but try and have a look. The other thing is, don't be shy. And I think people are a bit shy, am I worthy type idea. You only have to look at some of these Facebook group books. Street Snappers is a perfect example. You and I know how much talent there is in Street Snappers and what's out there. So send something in, see what happens. Be brave.
What's the worst?
Exactly. What's the worst that can happen? And the best that can happen is you'll have your complimentary copy dropped through the post with a bookmark in it showing where your images are.
Yeah, great. So, okay, so I've got an idea. It could be a single image, a project, whatever it is. Maybe I'm not all that good at writing. I can put the basic story together. Do I need to send you the finished words, or do you tart it up? Do you do a bit of editing?
No, I not every photographer is a great writer. Write down your thoughts. Tell me what you the ideas of what you're thinking. I'll look at it, and I don't rewrite things, but I improve on them, hopefully. I've also got, my daughter who's a writer, is an extremely good editor. And once I've put it all together, it goes over to her and she comes back and tells me what I've done wrong.
Oh, yeah. That's useful to have that extra pair of eyes.
So no, please don't be shy if you feel you're not great at writing. Just tell us about it and we'll do the rest.
Okay, I'm sure that'll be encouraging to a lot of people. So let's say I've got my project or my single image, and I've got some words. What do I then do? I just email you with a synopsis, just with an outline. See if you're interested.
No, preferably not. To be honest with you, I do get people drop me email and say, Derek, I've got this idea. What do you think? I can't really make a judgment on that. The best way of doing it is, I will reply to that, but it's not the best way. The best way of doing it is going on to the website, going through to the submissions, and on there you'll see a link to WeTransfer. Just go on to WeTransfer, send me a WeTransfer with your images and your words, and we'll do the rest.
Okay. So you mentioned the website. Just I will put it in the show notes, but just to say now, what is it? klickmagazine.com?
That's exactly it. Yep.
klickmagazine.com. Excellent. So what happens at the back end of putting an issue together? The editing, the compiling. I mean, it sounds like a massive job. How do you put an issue together, and how long does it take?
Right. Well, it's quarterly magazine. I must admit, by around about the sort of couple of weeks after it's actually gone to, a couple of days after it's gone to the printer, I do feel a bit frazzled. So what I tend to do is I walk away from it for 3 or 4 weeks to start with. That doesn't mean things aren't happening, because that's the period where most of the submissions start coming in. I just file them. I don't look at them for the first month, maybe even 6 weeks. I just put them into files. And then I give myself a month of looking through them, choosing what's going in. Then I start to compile on the computer or my publishing software, start putting it all together. That is very, very time consuming, because, each article gets read through probably 6 times. You've got to choose the images and make sure the articles are in the best order so that they flow well and that type of thing. So, and then you've got to tidy up the software as well, get everything in place, and then get it to the best I can. Then it goes off to the editor and then comes back to me, and then I check it through another couple of times.
Yeah.
And then it goes off to the editor. So basically it's 1 month of less activity, then a bit more activity, and then a month of frenzied activity.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know how you do it. Rather you than me, that's all I can say. I mean, it stresses me just doing a very simple zine, but when you've got to deal with lots of contributors and all this, I don't know how you do it. But
it does help when you love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yes, yeah, and that comes across. So let's get philosophical for a moment. You'll see a lot of material crossing your desk, a lot of submissions, a lot of styles and approaches and thoughts. So your finger is pretty much on the pulse here. Where do you think street photography is heading? Are you seeing any trends or any patterns emerging?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm a bit concerned that life in the street is becoming quite homogenised. Very little happens generally now. All town centres seem to be the same. Kids don't go out playing. People don't accumulate and sort of chat in the streets. Characters are fairly rare. So I think really the best trend would be, well, the most fruitful thing is to get into the more sort of vibrant and diverse cities. Seaside resorts are very fruitful as well. People get out of their normal everyday lives. This is where you need to be, I think, where people start showing their characters through. Festivals, demonstrations, celebrations, all those sort of gatherings. But
yeah. You mentioned seaside.
Yeah.
Am I imagining this, or do you have a seaside special coming up at some point?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I've never got enough to do. So, yeah, I put out a call actually a while ago asking for, I wanted to do a seaside special. Although it'll probably be called Klick at the Seaside. It's less cheesy, really. Yeah. And I put a call out, and to be honest with you, it's like a tsunami. I couldn't believe what came through. So brilliant. I've got a lot of work to sort of look through that. And so that I'll probably be starting that next week, putting that together. So I've got a lot of material. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it yet. It might be a bumper edition, but depends on things like cost and quality and things like that. But yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, great. Oh, I think that'd be really interesting to a lot of people, because the seaside is just so interesting for street photography. And I know I do a lot there, and I'm just fascinated by it. So we'll look forward to that. I must say, I'm here in my office, I'm looking at the bookshelf, and all the previous Klick magazines are on the bookshelf. And I just thought it's worth saying that it's a sort of magazine that you don't throw away. I don't throw it in a recycling bin, as I do with most magazines. it feels like a book on the bookshelf, and it's quite nice to see a kind of big volume collecting and gathering pace. I think that's one of the beautiful things about it. And I'll pick them up occasionally and just refer back. It's I love that
that's
aspect
nice
to
to
it.
hear. I mean, that was the, you know, in the original design plan was to the square format, B, having the sort of pure spine, so you could put it on a bookshelf and see the spine,
Mm.
and the size of it fits on a bookshelf, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah, it does. It's great.
Yeah.
So what are your wider plans for Klick? Where do you think you'll be in 3 years' time? What's the dream?
I get that asked a lot, actually, and I really don't know how to answer it. I think there's probably, well, no, there isn't. There's three aspects of it. A, have I got the energy and enthusiasm to do it? Well, there's no sign of that letting up, so that's okay. The second one is, am I still getting decent quality of submissions coming in?
Mm.
Again, you know, I think the quality of the submissions is superb. I'm so pleased with it. And then the third aspect is, do people still want to read it?
Yeah.
So long as those three are in place, it will carry on. I'll probably consider, we'll see how the Seaside special edition goes. If that's popular, then I'll probably think of maybe other specials to sort of fit in as time goes on.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
I don't, I've toyed with the idea of you know, maybe doing it bi-monthly rather than quarterly, but to be honest with you, I don't have the time to do that. I don't think it'd work, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, when you've got a big
So, yeah, I
editorial
mean,
team.
all these things. All these things I just see as an evolutionary process. Really, I have no idea how it's going, but hopefully it'll improve. Don't know how. The format will stay the same. I think it'd probably be nice to get a few more big interviews in. To be honest with you, if I can, but yeah.
Yeah, I think interviews are good. I think people like interviews.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good idea. But I reckon that when I'm interviewing you again in 3 years' time, we'll be in your Soho office block. And you'll have a team around you, and your receptionist will be booking a nice table for you to take me out for a slap-up lunch.
I look forward to that, Brian.
Yeah.
Put it in your diary.
Yeah, me too. I shall put it in the diary right now. So where are we now in the editorial cycle? What's coming up, and when can we get our hands on the next one?
Excuse me. It was published 2 days ago.
Okay, so yes, so this was issue 8.
Yeah, that's our second anniversary edition, by the way, which I'm very pleased about.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, so issue 8 is out. I don't know if I mentioned it, but all contributors get a complimentary copy.
Right.
So they're always sent out before the publication date. So hopefully they've all got them, although there's a couple, I think there's one in New York and a couple in Canada, so they may not have arrived quite yet. And so, yeah, it's up on the website and all available to order. So please, listeners.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to buy a copy, they just go on the website and you've got an e-commerce thing. They can just pay for it securely and one will arrive in the post.
Exactly, yep.
Excellent. And what about if people want to, what I tend to do with things like this, if I find something, let's say I just discover something at issue 8, I'd probably want to binge read and go back. Are you selling back issues?
Yes, I've got all 8 issues here, so they're all available. A couple of them actually on special offer at the moment, not through any sort of altruistic reason, but because I've got too many of them. But yeah, they're all 8 are available. I've got them here.
Great. Okay. So if anybody wants to contribute or buy a copy, they go to klickmagazine.com, which is straightforward enough. And any social links you'd like to share?
Yes, there's the one I'm trying to build is the Klick Community Facebook page, or Facebook group rather, sorry. What that's about, and it's open, again, it's open to anybody. It's not there for loading images particularly. I shy away from that. It's there really as a magazine, as a sort of extra to a magazine, just for people to put their thoughts on, tell us what exhibitions they may have gone to or an exhibition they're going to, somebody they bumped in on the street, whatever, just a sort of snippet of news that they may have to share with us, or just an idea really.
Yeah, that's good. So that's quite good. It does what it says on the tin. It's a community.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Instagram, is that something you bother with or not much?
No, I use Instagram mainly as a sort of advertising thing, really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Derek, it's been great talking to you. And I think you've done a great job. And
Thank you.
Long may it continue. And I hope everybody rushes out and buys Klick.
Yes, please do.
Thanks again for your time. And I'm sure I'll bump into you on the street one day.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Really appreciate it. It's been lovely talking to you.
Likewise. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
There's an old phrase, isn't there? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So I've led you to the water. Derek says he wants to hear from you. And now it's over to you. I'd love it if you were to get involved with this great initiative. Thanks again for sending me your questions for the show. I'm going through them in rotation, and if you sent me a question, it will get used. And we will start with a question from Nigel, who's been on the show before, I think.
Hi, Brian. It's Nigel from East Yorkshire. I'm looking at the Ricoh GR3X, which appears to be a flagship camera for street photography. There appears to be a lot of comments regarding the battery life and dust. Have you experienced using this camera, Brian? If so, I'd appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I've had several Ricoh GR3s and GR2s for that matter, and I currently use one. I've always preferred the wider 28mm version, but Nigel here is talking about the GR3X, which is the 40mm equivalent version. Now, over the years, I've heard lots of people talk about the internal dust problem. But having owned 3 or 4 of these cameras myself, and Alex, my son, I think has had 2 of them, we've never experienced it. But there are a few sensible things you can do to prevent it if you think it could be a problem. So firstly, always have a lens cap on, especially when you're not using the camera. Now, I got a cheap but very good metal one, which looks great. It fits snugly, from Amazon for about a tenner. And I think that helps really keep the dust at bay. And then secondly, when you keep the camera in your pocket, when you're just walking around with it in your pocket or your bag, keep it in a pouch. Pockets tend to get very dusty, but a nice snug fitting pouch will help keep the dust out. Again, Amazon for a tenner or something. You haven't got to spend a lot of money on this stuff. As for battery life, yeah, this is a weakness for these cameras, and we have to accept it. It's a price worth paying, I think. I usually leave the house with a battery in the camera and a couple of spares, sometimes 3 if I know I'm going to be spending a lot of time out there and I've got a long day on the streets. Now, the good news is that these batteries are tiny and they're very light, so they're very easy to carry. So, yes, the battery thing is a weakness, but it's a manageable issue. And this is such a great camera. I think I'll always own one, and it's just perfect for street photography. So the battery and the dust, yeah, there could be an issue, but easily manageable. I hope that's answered your question, Nigel. And we have one more question. This is from Andy, who lives in Venice, and I know who shoots lots of great black and white work there. Over to you, Andy.
Hi, this is Andy. I live in Venice, and I'm interested to know from Brian. Brian's been coming to Venice for many, many years now and taking street snaps. How do you keep it fresh? What are you looking for every time you come? Are there any areas of Venice that you've not visited yet that you would like to? And what new projects are you working on? I'm on Monochrome Venice at monochrome.venice if anybody wants to check out some of my stuff. Thanks.
Okay, I know this is specific to Venice, but you could apply much of what I think I'm going to say to any location. So firstly, having seen pretty much everything there is to see in Venice, I think, I have a reasonable idea of where I need to go to get what I need to get. So it really comes down to projects. I know that if I had to rely purely on spontaneous moments, I'd spend way too much time being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I'd need to get lucky a lot of the time. So I go where I need to go for specific projects. For example, one of those projects is all about the Disneyfication of Venice, where everything is tourist related, where you've got tourists doing tourist things, generally looking pretty awful, being disrespectful to the city and its locals. And this project is all about Venice selling its soul to tourism, I guess. So for this project, I can stack the odds in my favour. If I have a bright sunny day, I'll go to the tourist hotspots where I know I'm going to find them, like Piazza San Marco, the Rialto Bridge, all the predictable places. Another example, another project I'm in the middle of, is all about the island of Giudecca, which is that long strip of land opposite the main island. And I find that on Giudecca, there's a feeling of detachment and remoteness, although it is part of Venice, and it's only a few minutes away by boat from the city centre. It does feel like a different land. There are no tourists there, just locals. And you just have this feeling of very slow-paced local life. So I'm shooting this one in black and white, and it's a bit more austere as a project. So if I have a wet or foggy day, it's ideal for this project. I'll go to Giudecca. So as for keeping it fresh, there's really no need to even think about that. I find that Venice has a surprise for you around every corner, and there's just so much to absorb everywhere you look. So Venice kind of keeps itself fresh. And you asked about areas I've not visited and what new projects. Well, I can combine these 2 points in the same response, I think. I'm desperately keen to explore some of the outlying islands, maybe some of the uninhabited ones, or certainly the ones that tourists tend not to bother with. I want to photograph the clam fishermen, the agricultural workers, the bars only the locals know about, the marshland seascapes, and all this stuff. Now, I'm just starting to research all this now, and once I've got a plan, I'll get out there and do some real exploring. And who knows, I might actually turn this into a workshop for next year. Watch this space. Another place I've not visited much is the island of Murano, a 5-minute boat ride away. Sure, I've been to the main parts where all the furnaces and the glass places are, but it's actually quite a big island, bigger than you might think. And I'd love to get myself round it all, certainly to the parts where the tourists don't go, and maybe do a project about the Muranese, the locals. But that's a bit further down the track. I'll probably get there this year and spend a few days there. We'll see. So that's it for today's questions. If you have a question for the show, just grab your phone. You know all this already. Grab your phone, record a short message saying your first name, where you're from, and then your question. And then if you want to add your Instagram handle at the end, then just email me the clip. Time for some news. And, well, we'll start with some news from me. And I've just launched a new workshop, and this is a Leica-specific one. You might be surprised to know. So I've been wanting to do this for a while. And when someone asked me if I was going to do one, well, that was the trigger. So here it is. This is a workshop for Leica users, and it covers all Leica cameras, but it was designed primarily with the M system in mind. And it's basically a street photography workshop in London, but with the emphasis on getting the most out of your Leica for street photography, and particularly getting to grips with zone focusing. This is something that troubles a lot of people, and I think people will end this workshop having really mastered it. That's the aim. However, the workshop sold out within a few hours, but if there's enough interest, I'll add another date, but I need you to let me know. So please ping me a message if you think you might be interested, and I'll look at this again. Now, some of you were probably members of a Facebook group called the Street Snappers Community. Not the collective, but the community, a public group. Two very separate things, but both run by me. So the community grew to about 8,400 members. But the problem was that hardly any of those members ever engaged or participated in any way. And this irked me slightly. So I'm closing that group down this weekend, and I've started another group, a new group to take over, and it's called Street Snappers Worldwide. This is essentially a critique group where you can post images and get some quality critique and feedback. Not from random idiots who say awesome capture to everything, but good, constructive, honest, frank, focused critique. You'll also find in the group shared articles, discussions, links to films, lots of other street photography related stuff. Now, if you are a member of the old group, you've got a few days or maybe a day to, if you want to get over to the Street Snappers Worldwide group. This new group is all street, no landscapes, no architectural shots, no wildlife, certainly no weddings. It's open to all to join, and I'd love to see you there. Just search for Street Snappers Worldwide on Facebook. I'll pop a link in the show notes for you. Finally, it's almost time for the Dublin Street Photography Festival. Again, I can't believe it was a year ago since the last one. So this takes place over the first weekend in May, the May Bank holiday weekend, in fact. This is a long weekend of street photography fun. You'll see some stunning images in various exhibitions. There are workshops, walks, talks, and lots of Guinness. What's not to like? And if you fancy doing a trip to Dublin later in the year, I've got a few spaces left on my one-day workshop at the beginning of October. So I'll provide a separate link for that in the show notes. Well, that just about wraps up today's episode. If you have any ideas or requests for topics for future episodes, and your questions, of course, just drop me a line. brian@streetsnappers.com. Now, let's get out there into that lovely sunshine. Maybe do some shooting. Bye for now.